You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to our Sunday morning review in the cold light of day. Joining me on the Rowett train is show regular and a welcome voice, a welcome return to Mike Hayden. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. Because I was just saying off air, slightly overindulged, but that's what 4 wins on the spin will do to you sometimes, I think. So it was very much worth it.
Glad to hear it, mate. And I think there'll be quite a few beers going down generally around the Millwall support at the moment, because that was quite a win yesterday, Mike. I was just reading the BBC report from yesterday's game, and Sheffield United came into the game unbeaten in 10 matches, and I mentioned yesterday they were top of the form table, last 6, unbeaten in 10. They hadn't conceded a goal in how many games? In the previous 5, hadn't conceded at all. These were tough opponents. We with a depleted squad, we went head to head with them and prevailed. And I think that's quite a performance. I don't know if I'm overdoing it, and I'm interested to see what you're thinking, saying that's one of Gary Rowett's best performances since he arrived in October 19.
I think so. If you look at the kind of context behind it, as you say, I mean, it wasn't a pretty performance yesterday by any stretch. I think when I bumped into you after the game, I mentioned it felt like one of those, away wins that you get, but just at home, like very dogged, very resilient. And, we took a chance when it came. That's kind of what it felt like. But sometimes you have to perform like that, against, as you say, a good side. In Sheffield United in the top 6, top of the form table, we nullified pretty much any threat that they had, and we've done that quite a bit. I mean, it's not just teams having an off day. I think we are nullifying threats. I mean, it was the same with QPR at home, a very good side in the top 6. Completely no threat, and that's credit to Millwall. But yeah, it was a very dogged display in tough circumstances that we've got at the moment with all of the injuries. But we're showing that Millwall fight and that Millwall character, and that sort of win was, it wasn't pretty on the eye, but it's one of those which it feels very good to win that game, especially, the way that we played. And sometimes you've got to win a bit dirty as well.
Yeah, it was a physical contest. I mean, we've mentioned injuries, both Mason Bennett and Sean Hutchinson going out of the game yesterday at various points. But it was a physical tussle out there. They came to try and match us in one-to-ones, and I've got to take my hat off to this team. Someone mentioned on Twitter yesterday how the defence and the midfield, I'd say, showing real steel in these matchups, because you're not going to get anything out of a game like that without going toe to toe with them, and we did. I've got to say it's a really impressive performance for me overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and being defensively resolute hasn't necessarily been a trait of this team this season either. There have been times where we've let in poor goals and stuff like that, but over this run of form that we've had, I think the first thing that we've done is kept goals out, and been defensively resolute, nullified any threats that the teams are going. But also, we look like we can score goals as well. And, essentially taking it back to basics, that's the recipes of a good side, nullify threats and take chances. And that's what we've been doing. And that's why we've won 4 on the spin. So, yeah, it's been excellent, Nick.
It has a kind of a cup tie vibe at the moment, because, I'm just looking at the starting 11 yesterday, which we'll see how the 2 injured players shape up over the thankfully a week of respite ahead of us. But there's a sense of wing and a prayer a little bit, Mike. In the starting 11 almost picked itself largely because when you look at the bench, the options are very, very limited now, aren't they? I mean, just the fact that we're bringing Zach Lovelace into the fray at any point. I think he's 16 now, not 15, 16. But the fact that that's what it's coming down to speaks really for the fundamental problem, which is that we just don't have the players available that are gonna that can give us any depth. And I think that may be a problem for us. I mean, I think we've got to be a bit realistic about the playoff surge. It's going to be very enjoyable whilst it lasts, but I think that might catch up with us at some point. How do you see it?
I agree, because I think the sort of last 15, 20 minutes, although we were still defensively resolute, the team looked incredibly tired because,
Yeah,
I think Rowett said in his post-match about the fact that Sheffield United had made a few changes, but they could afford to do that with the size of their squad and didn't have as many injuries as us and stuff like that after a midweek game. And that was a tough match at Derby as well, where we really had to dig in and put a lot of effort in. So to play, obviously, the same 11 again on the Saturday is not ideal, and I think Rowett sort of knows that. But it is going to be tough, and I think that's why I'm sort of quite surprised at this upturn in form, if I'm honest, because if anything, the squad's even more depleted than it was before in the season when we were worse than this. But actually, we seem to be playing well at the moment. But I think maybe it's that kind of Millwall underdog nature, that Millwall
I
underdog
think you've got
spirit.
it spot on. Yeah, we love it, don't we?
Because
It's when we come into our own.
It is because we don't expect anything at the moment necessarily, but all of a sudden now we've gone on a 4-game winning streak. So it's a funny thing, isn't it? Very strange, but it's certainly not something I'm going to complain about. But I think with the squad as well, Nick, if you look at the injury list, we've somehow put together a team which is just injury prone. Because if you look at the list that's out, they've all had quite bad injuries before. You look at the Bradshaws, the Leonards, long-term absentees. Afobe's known to be injury prone. Bennett, I think that was his longest run without having an injury, so he was probably due one, knowing him. Hutch also has had injury issues in the past. He went off yesterday. So I think it's just, I don't think it's anything that the club are doing wrong in training or any conspiracy theories like that. I think it's more around, unfortunately, the side that we have put together have some injury problems with them. That's just how it is. So that is frustrating. But at the moment, as I say, we're finding a way to win with the we've got available.
Yeah, I mean, long may that continue. I mean, the first half yesterday, I thought was an object lesson in attritional football in a way, which there is an art form to that, and I think that we've had a long debate about Gary Rowett and his style of football, and the lack of entertainment, because that's been a real thing. You and I have spoken about it previously, whether it's going to put bums on seats. But there was 14,000 in there yesterday, Mike, and I know we're on a run. And I know that the lure of the playoffs is just kind of peeping over the horizon again. So that will. I mean, despite ticket prices and tough times generally for everyone. But I think that we saw Gary Rowett ball at its best yesterday. We've seen it in some very tough circumstances, but that was a masterclass yesterday in containment. And then stealing the goal, winning the goal. That 1-0 to the Millwall. Object lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think he did what he needed to do yesterday. It wasn't going to be a game where, we had the energy like we did against QPR to basically dominate 90 minutes and create loads of chances. He didn't necessarily have the players available to do that, especially when Bennett went off early on.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a collective groan when George Evans came in for Mason Bennett, because obviously I don't know what Conor Mahoney's got to do to get any minutes. I mean, is he courting Mrs. Rowett or something? I'm not sure. Because, I mean, that was obviously the natural change. You would have thought Mahoney would come in, but when Evans came on, there was a sort of a collective groan around the den.
Booing around where I was.
Well, it's a bit harsh, that.
Strong, I thought.
It was. But I think it was more just like we knew how the game was going to pan out then. I think when Evans sort of came in that early, we knew it was going to be one of those games where we're just going to have to dig in and but it worked in the end. But I think it was excellent. And good to see Dan Ballard back in the side. I think credit to obviously Murray Wallace, the fact that Dan Ballard's fit again, but Murray's kept him out. But I think Dan's going to play a little bit now with Hutch out for a few weeks. And I thought he was excellent as well when he came back in, Nick. He just settled straight back in and looked just really happy to be back out there, So I was impressed with that as well. But I think as I say, it was a really, really good performance under the circumstances and to beat a very good side. So happy days.
Hats off. It's strange. I think the George Evans substitution was one of those kind of it was a Gary Rowett choice, wasn't it? Because I suppose you're in a game where you're up against tough opponents, work rate is going to become an issue, and maybe you just don't get the work rate that he's looking for from a kind of like the
Mahoney.
kind of the wayward winger that is Conor Mahoney. He shows it when he shows it, doesn't he? And Rowett clearly values George Evans's percentage play, and in the end, the results will do the talking. I mean, as I said, it feels a little bit wing and a prayer because of the injury tally that seems to never seems to leave us this season. But you've got to take your hat off to the fact we're now 11th in the Championship League table. What's that? 5 points away from Luton on 54 in that magic 6 spots. And the trip to Reading. I mean, it's game by game now, really, Mike, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. We have a must win, but if we're going to maintain the dream, then probably we've got to be looking for 3 points there at the Majeski Stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, they made that strange appointment of Paul Ince, who'd been out of work for about 7 years. So I'm not sure how he got in there, but he managed. I think he won his first game, didn't he? But they did lose yesterday, Reading. But yeah, as I say, they're a side which, even as an 11th place team, let's say we maybe weren't even looking up, you'd hopefully beat them. But I think what's worked well that Rowett did a few games ago, which was quite clever, was just sort of saying, look, the pressure's off now. We're probably not going to get in the top 6, and that sort of psychological impact on the team has clearly worked because they're playing with a bit more sort of freedom and sort of confidence now that let's just see where we get. So that's how I'm looking at it. Sort of in the football cliche, game by game, isn't it? And let's keep, as long as we keep performing well, that's the most important thing to me. And then if we're picking up points, we'll just see where we go. But there's never say never, I think, Nick, because I think the Championship's been one of those leagues in the last few years where, 5th and 6th spot are really up for grabs up until sometimes the final day of the season. So there's teams that, have us. I mean, even when we had that chance, was it when we signed Tim Cahill in the January and we had that massive, incredible run of form and nearly got in. If you have a good surge this side of the year, this side of the season, anyone can get in. But as I say, I don't expect that to happen. But you never know, Nick. You never know.
I think keeping the possibility alive going into March, mid-March, maybe we'll see how the game goes on Saturday. But just have the excitement, potential excitement of something being in the offing is a real achievement from a difficult season. I do think you're right about taking the pressure off of the squad with that almost Jose Mourinho style announcement. There's the mind games, isn't it? Taking the weight of expectation away from the shoulders of the players. And it's interesting actually that we've got Tyler Bury now, Jed Wallace, both flair players, both able to the confidence to try tricks and flicks. And a couple yesterday I saw Tyler try. It doesn't work sometimes, but the confidence to take that on, I think, is maybe you can trace it back to that Gary Rowett announcement that we're not expecting to get into the top 6. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, Mike. But I'm actually enjoying my football again. It's just enjoyable to get back down the den again, Mike. And I mean, we saw each other yesterday. It was one of the first things we said. Walking down Alderson Road. There's a buzz, and it's great to see it again, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why you go to football ultimately, is to sort of have some element of entertainment and enjoyment, isn't it? And it's been difficult to do that at some stages this season with the style of football that Rowett's played. But I think I don't know. I think he is starting to get it finally after maybe 3 years, starting to understand a bit more about what the fans want to see. And it's that balancing act, really, I think, that he's battling with his sort of defensive conscience, but also understanding that you need to put some more blood and thunder performances in at the Den if he's going to remain as manager, to be honest. So and I think he's sort of done that. So I think clearly Rowett's got to be here next season now. And Berylson's put out a statement sort of saying, he wants a big summer. So I think it sounds as though they're going to put a few £1 million behind it. Obviously, the return of Alex Aldridge as I don't know what role he's come into unless the head of recruitment, because I think we already had one, but joined the recruitings team again. So, hopefully big things can happen again this summer, because I think Rowett's going to be here. And, who knows? But it's more about next season, I think. Let's just enjoy the ride, as you say, put in some good performances this year, see where we get. And then, again, it's got to be a decent squad rebuild a bit in the summer. It has to be this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of some of the deadwood and clear away those that Gary Rowett clearly doesn't see as part of the plans. And it will be an interesting start to the new season in August. I'm looking forward to it. Great performance, great win yesterday. The playoffs are now this kind of distant mirage on the horizon again, listeners. So let's enjoy the ride while we can. I'm looking forward to next Saturday. I'm going to go to Reading, so I'll hopefully do a report from the Majeski Stadium. Are you going there, Mike, or are you?
I wasn't. I saw it sold out now. Actually, yeah. Unfortunately, it's a terrible excuse, but it's one of my girlfriend's best friend's 30th birthday. So I've got to go to that. I mean, I'm expecting some brownie points for going, Nick.
Fizz and bubbles at some trendy wine bar somewhere. I'm sorry, just checking of Twitter to see the score. I know we've all been there, Mike. I feel your pain, mate. Hopefully I'll be there next week. So looking forward to that. We'll say a big thank you to Mike for coming in on a Sunday morning, taking time out of his day. We're going to play you out now with one or two of the voicemail messages left on 0208 144 0232. Do keep them coming, listeners. Always good to hear from you. Thank you very much, Mike.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nick.
Oh, hi, Nick. John Rankin here, just ringing in after the Sheffield United game. What a fantastic victory at the Den. There was a massive packed crowd. Sheffield bought, they filled the stand up, the away stand up, and what a good team they were, Sheffield United. You could see they had quality everywhere on the pitch. The way they passed, moved the ball about, they were really, really playing some good football, but Gary Rowett has that defence absolutely organised like a unit now. No one lost their shape. He's working some kind of zonal system, and they all supported each other. No one rushed out and left gaps. It was absolutely brilliant, and topped off by a wonderful goal by Jake Cooper, making up for last week. So a real Millwall performance at its best. Bye for now. Thanks.
Hi Nick, it's Matt Richards driving back from the game. I guess that's really what you call battling performance, isn't it, really? Not the best game in the world, but under the circumstances, bear in mind injuries, and Sheffield United, good team, top six, doing really well. And they look like a good team as well, really, although they never really cut through us at all. But good possession, etc. But we'll take it. I mean, it's just gutting. I mean, Bennett going off after 15 minutes, I think that kind of really knocked us for six. It was almost as if it felt as if we'd gone one goal behind, and never really got going first half. And I was surprised Evans coming on. I know Bennett's off, just come back from injury, but you would have thought Mahoney or some coming on with an attacking player. But anyway, got through that. Second half better, brighter. Danny Mack had a good long range shot. A bit more attacking intent in the second half, and great towering header by Coops, and battling performance. I thought after that we were sitting back too much. I was worried. I was sure they were going to score, but the boys just gave 100%. Flying in for tackles, sticking their foot in, going up for headers. The defence was just immense today, and which makes me think, it's gutting to see Hutch go down. It looked like a bad injury, or the fact he was punching the ground. You feel, it could be a bad one. Thank God Ballard's back of it, really. But battling performance, 3 points, 4 wins in a row. On to Reading. Come on, you Lions. Let's keep it going. Although Christ knows who's going to be playing next. See you later. Cheers.
Hi Nick, Ed Castle here. Just in the car on the way back from that today. excellent win in the end. Wasn't expecting it after that first half. I mean, lightest way to put it is probably damn squib. Very attritional. Shame about Bennett's injury. We pretty impressed later on Hutchinson just after the goal, but yeah, no. First half was pretty terrible actually. Both sides cancelling each other out. Probably sum it up best by about halfway through it. I was actually found myself googling some of the pitch side advertising to see what companies. Some interesting stuff. Lifeboy. If anyone's interested, go and have a look at that. But yeah, no, second half, again, not much in it, definitely got better. But, you know, just that one moment, bit of quality, decent ball in the box. Cooper needs to do it more often, doesn't he, really, the size of the fella. But yeah, no, glad he got his head on it. Sheffield United must hate the bloke. I think he scores every time we play them. But yeah, really ground it out in that second half. Very proud of the way they've pulled it off, because leaving the ground, you could see a few of them out on their feet in the end, crouching over, hunched over, because they've just absolutely shattered. Yeah, a couple of mentions. Danny McNamara, excellent again. He's really, really improving. I thought Billy Mitchell played well, actually. I know I've given him a bit of criticism in the past. Sometimes I think, probably down to inexperience, but sometimes he can kind of dwell on the ball and get caught. But he was excellent last 2 games, actually. I think he's been very good. Just breaking things up and getting in people's faces. Not really a game for the front two. Well, what turned out to be. Yeah, so, as I was saying, excellent win.
The sun comes shining through, but when you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop your sighing. Be happy again when you're smiling. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. Come on, you lions.